Well, many realizations with being alone. My husband's on vacation. We'll be back sometime today. Many realizations when you're alone, when you're sick with evolution, and when you're watching a bunch of movies, really like a very intricate storyline, like on Netflix. And then you look past on all the different storylines and perspectives. And perspectives are the same thing as storylines. It's just another version of the same events. And that's very abstract. Understanding the Greek system of logic and reasoning, it's about creating stories. It's about creating narratives. It's about having so many storylines and narratives around the same energy that you get so confused, you don't know what the truth is, if there should be even a truth. And so what it comes down to, really what it comes down to is the meaning of life can change all the time. There is no meaning to life. It's whatever you obviously make it mean. It's whatever story you want to write about your life. But the real true thing to come from is life and death. But what is life and death? Because even then, that is also another story. What is life and what is death? Well, I want to stay on this earth, in this body, in this life that I'm living right now. As much as it's changing out there, I will definitely change with it. But I want to stay here on this earth. And what's the simplest way to stay here on this earth? Keep eating food and keep evolving with the changes in my society, in politics, religions, and scientific dogmas. Because those are all the storylines out there that you see everybody buying into and referring to when they want to justify or explain something they don't understand. And the only way they understand it is if they find a storyline that will fit into whatever narrative they're trying to portray or promote. It might be the influence is money for a lot of people. And so when money is your God, when that is your storyline, then you will then buy into the other storylines that will help you then gather money, even at the expense of your fellow man. And so while I'm sitting here just like, oh my God, yesterday I was sleeping on and off, blowing out loogies and blowing out snot and mucus and everything. And I was tired. My body was tired. When you're fighting to stay alive in a crazy environment, it's pretty intense. And then a couple weeks ago, I remember, or not a couple days ago, I was telling you, I felt like I was drowning in my own mucus. It was a dream that I had prior to then me feeling all these different things and dealing with having to recover from this new evolution. And that right there is holy crap. So that's an energy. And it's an energy that has specific components in that energy that we have all agreed upon through academia, through the foundation of concepts and terms, that mucus has the T cell and B cell antigen memory programming. It has proteins, it has lipids, it has, like I said, fats, it has water, it has glucose, and it's highly communicable. Okay? And so I'm releasing that excess stuff because what we're seeing out there, and making this very simple, is those that do not release that mucus, who are under the state of being cured, then end up having to deal with the stuff that they have cured later on down the line, and the energy is extraordinary. And so then you realize that yes, there's another storyline that can be created, but it is a storyline that's based upon the academic facts and with a different outcome. The outcome is that you're not demonizing the pain of mucus, the pain of what you're feeling when you're evolving from a new virus, and that you're not demonizing the therapeutics, you're not demonizing anything. You're just reacting to the energy that everyone has a storyline around differently. You're feeding the energy. You're releasing the excess energy. And so that's when you have to realize that humans are very easily programmable. because you give them a storyline that is relatively like, okay, that I don't even know what makes a person accepting a storyline, but there's a universal storyline that everyone agrees upon, so they think it's the truth, they think it's the reality, it's a fact, when it's just a storyline, and it can change. Just like history can change. What do you mean history? History is the current today. History is what you see today, and then you call it history. And because it has a sepia-looking background, like you see, like in the Mexican cartel movies, right, where it's all sepia-toned. So it looks like, oh, Mexico, everything is sepia toned. And then in Poland, everything is gray and dark and dystopian. And then in some other place, like in Australia, it's like everything, the shrimp on the Barbie. It's that guy from Paul Hogan from the Crocodile Dundee. He's always saying, hey, let's go put some shrimp on the Barbie. And so we have these realities in our head based upon the programming on TV and in the movies and even in books. And then also, just our parents, grandparents. I mean, and so we have all these storylines and these realities that were given to us. And that's what creates the frame of reference. And so here I am going like, oh my God, when I finally realized that the timeline, which is like the history timeline, is like another social construct. It's another logic that the Greeks and the Romans gave to us. I'm not saying it was a gift. It's a type of logic and reasoning that the longer the timeline is, then you can fit in a lot of storylines. And then you can compartmentalize the storylines. So then you have the history BC of China and the history BC AD of Mesopotamia, and here you have the Sumerian pantheon, and you have the Hindu gods and all these different gods, and all of a sudden, over time, however long time, I don't even know, because remember, we only remember the last 3 generations if they're still alive, and then whatever's written. So we don't even remember what history is because we were just being told this stuff. And so all that stuff that we're given as history is being compartmentalized and then taught through academia. That becomes a reality that then shifts. And then that's the whole mandala effect. Is when reality shifts. Why does it shift? Because you just change a word. You change a molecule. You change a perspective. You're like, oh, well, science is never settled. This is the reality right now. This therapeutic and this therapeutic is going to be the end all be all. And then, wow, 10 years later, nope, it's not this therapeutic or this therapeutic, it's this therapeutic. And so reality shifts all the time based upon new discoveries, right? Science is never settled. History is never settled. History is just a story. It's his story. It's his version of whatever set of events that have happened. And so while we have people who are still around from the silent generation that can give us their perspective of history, when the silent generation all dies and the baby boomer generation all dies, okay, and we have even the Generation X is all passed away, except for me and a few other people and whatever, right? And then you have all these new generations, and then you have the historical stuff. Maybe it's mowed down or a tornado hits it. All the things that gave us these memories of what history is to us. Statues are torn down. Digital stuff is erased. That's why this digital media is crazy, because you can always rewrite and write history over and over and over again. And all you do is just delete somebody's account, delete somebody's webpage, delete somebody's presence, and as if they never existed. You know how easy it is to delete books, delete people, delete a perspective? That's the crazy thing of all. And so, but then humans, I don't know. I trip out on that, because with this information, it's not new. Salt is not new. Salt water is not new. But how easy it is to delete people just by simply just when they don't exist. I mean, I did that with people who have passed away. Not that I deleted them, but I unfriended them. So what's the point of having someone dead on my Facebook page? Right? And so you must stay alive as much as you can. You must understand the JJ Meta mentality, and you must get this across to the people in your world before it gets deleted. The less people that know about JJ meta mentality, the easier it will be to control another generation of people who will die and reproduce. Because you're seeing it out there right now. People are dying and reproducing left and right. So their memories are very short. And it'll be easy to program those children into believing that this happened at this time. Here's the timeline of length times width times height, which is volume. And so you have a massive volume of history of 12 AD and BC. And we have all these architect structures. And we had a different simulation of giants and exotic looking things. And then the simulation changed and it became more basic, more diminutive. And we don't have the giants anymore, except for what we see in fairy tales. And so it's going to be easy to keep recreating the simulation. And so, but then, you know, could there be a segment of the population that understands that we're in a simulation? And we should, those that understand that we're in a simulation should be able to put it out there, and that you can write in yourself in write yourself into the future, or you can write yourself out of the future. That's what, when I'm watching that movie with, I forget the name of it, where the person was writing themselves, the person was writing this person's story. So every time she wrote something, this person was enacting whatever she was writing simultaneously. That's the abstract. That's what Hollywood is telling us, is that you can write in the future. You can write the past. You can create history. You can create the future. But reality is the present. It's the energy that you feel. Forget all the simulation, the paradigms out there, like those buildings that are out there that were erected from construction, whether it's 3D printing or somebody else's, you know, construction company. They can be torn down just like that. Your community can be torn down just like that and then rebuilt in another way. Okay? And so what your reality is that the proof is the energy that you feel. And then there's always how you want to characterize the energy. That's the storylines. That's what we were fighting against back in 2018 and 2017. There was a storyline of pain. And people were buying into the old narratives, because now there's a new narrative that pain is actually evolution. It must be fed to stay alive, and that you don't have to die from or suffer from diagnosable conditions. But you have to understand that you have to bring in sodium chloride, water, and food and deal with the pain and not try to stay cured. Okay, that's a very simple storyline. It doesn't require much. But the more complicated storylines that are full of fanfare and emotion are the ones that are like, oh my God, salt is poison. Oh my God, food is poison. Oh my God, the therapeutics are the poison. And then there's these campaigns, these aggressive campaigns called activism, that go and reinforce those storylines that really, when you think about it, are not poison. It's how you react to the energy of pain is the difference. Because Jilly Juice will bring up stuff that you don't want to deal with. It's called waking up everything that's latent because you put it to sleep with remedies and therapeutics from the past, or from yesterday, or your parents did it and they passed that on to you. Okay? And so are you going to say that jelly juice is poison? Are you going to say that cabbage water and salt is poison if you're feeling reactions from it? No different than when someone takes a therapeutic and they get a reaction. But remember, when someone said, oh, Bruce Wilmot died from jelly juice, he was going to die anyways. So the same argument can be said for anyone taking a therapeutic who's already on their last legs, exposed to a virus in their environment from their friends and family. They weren't going to survive their environment anyways, but it's easy to blame the nearest thing that you have an issue with because you don't want to feel pain and you haven't experienced it yourself. And if you have, then you have a shared characteristic or a shared storyline around a specific similar characteristic, but it's not a reality that everyone shares. That's the crazy paradox that we're living in, is we're dealing with so many storylines, so many towers of Babel, and then everybody's like this. And then when you're saying, oh, I want to live, and you're taking all of these things that you see in the order of operations in the hospital system, the end result is death. That's when you know how powerful storylines are, especially when they're reinforced from politics, religions, and scientific dogmas. That's a realization. That's why I stay unto myself, because I know how powerful the storylines are out there. They are extremely powerful. And my little storyline of salt water and feeling the pain and viruses are not necessarily bad, but they are something you have to evolve to. It's a very small little storyline in a scheme of the heavily religious people. Oh my God, that's a storyline I can't even penetrate, nor will I even try to attempt to. I've tried to penetrate the religious people. You can't penetrate them. Believe me, I've tried. I can't penetrate the political people. I can't penetrate the scientific dogmatic people, because the storylines are so heavily embedded that it's within their every fabric of being, and it's their identity. Can you take away someone's identity? They have to release that identity unto themselves. And let me tell you, when your whole world is based upon that identity of buying into that storyline, whether it's Jehovah's Witness, whether it's being a doctor or a nurse, or being a pro-Trump or a pro-Biden or anti-Trump or anti-Biden, that's an identity people that cannot seem to get away with. If you're an anti-vaxxer or pro-vaxxer, that's an identity. That's a storyline that is so embedded deeply. The storyline of the Illuminati. I bought into that for a while too. Catholicism, Judaism, all the different religions are storylines. And when you realize everything's a storyline, and you're like, well, what the hell is it? Now you write your future. Now you write your present. You start developing your own storyline. And that's what I keep telling my people that in my Jilly Juice crowd, is that if you don't understand writing your own storyline, you will then inevitably, very easily, go back to the old storylines in your politics, in your religions, in your culture, horoscopes, Chinese and Vietnamese horoscopes, in Catholicism, Judaism, Jehovah's Witness, and then also in the political storylines. You'll fall so easily. You'll be so wrapped easily into the activist storylines, and then the storylines of your children. That's why they say, like, when you're always busy all the time, you will not have the opportunity to think deeply or creatively. That's the reason why I don't have a heavy social life. I don't have any kids. I don't want to be distracted by the children, by people's drama. And I want to develop something not only for myself, but for humanity. Should they want to adopt another fucking storyline, if they can handle it. Because I'm telling you, people are at this point right here with storylines. They can't handle another one, right? And so that's why I don't deal with people's drama, because that is a distraction. I don't get distracted with alcohol, drugs, or so much sex. I understand that we're in a major crossroads, a turning point of humanity. And it's either we repeat the same shit in politics, religions, and scientific dogmas, or we develop another path that can still honor the other storylines out there as a choice. But now you have another option, another opportunity. That's all I'm doing. I'm not trying to impose anything on anybody. You deserve another choice, another opportunity, another way of looking at the world, another perspective. And that's something that I'm like, oh my God, thanks, Ricky Rodriguez. But that's something that with me just laying in bed yesterday, just in and out of consciousness, listening to my Netflix, and I'm by myself. My dog, has her storyline, which is she's trying to survive all this. She's releasing mucus, so I see the energy that she's releasing. She hasn't had a seizure in the last month or so, and she's been exposed to this virus like I have, and it's been really insane. Okay, it's been very insane. And there's going to be more down the line. And there's more clarity of thought that I'm going to have. That's the power of feeling the pain, the power of dealing with the pain, the power of being on your own, the power of autonomy. Is that you're able to actually adapt and realize just what a cluster fudge that you're in. Yeah, we are in the Tower of Babel. This is literally the Tower of Babel. Because there are millions of storylines out there. Just look at every single group out there. Just when you ask Google, how old is mankind? It says, 200,000 years old. I'm like, I don't even know even beyond my parents' generation, much less even quantify what 200,000 years old is. When you can remember past a certain point or be given a perspective from people who were living during that time, then you're believing the storylines of time constructs That's what I'm saying. The logic and reasoning is something that can be developed and taken away. When you increase the timeline, you increase the amount of the volume of storylines that can be created and then compartmentalized and then made money from. So as long as there's some kind of logic and reasoning, and then when things aren't logical anymore and they're not connecting as far as patterns, then you say, oh, science is never settled, history is never settled. And there's the loopholes to then say, okay, well, they didn't buy this storyline, so we're then going to segue to this storyline and also justify why it is that we had to change and say, okay, well, I guess this doesn't work anymore. Other people, they're figuring it out. And so if you only had the birth, or if you only had the length of time of humanity was been on this earth was maybe, let's say, 2,000 years. Well, damn, with the amount of storylines that are out there, could you have that many stories be birthed within 2,000 years? Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, you could. It'd be a very, but that's pretty crazy to develop languages. I mean, how many languages are there in the world? How many stories are there in the world? How many political thought processes out there in the world? How many religions out there in the world? When I saw that the Illuminati developed the Jehovah's Witness, then I'm like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Religion. Oh, wait, the Bible is written. Yeah, and then there's different types of language and dialects. You have the Latin, you have the Spanish, the English, Chinese, Japanese, and you have all these different languages with specific patterns and logic and then you're like, oh my God. Then you're creating the reality. You're creating the landscape. Then we have, then we have all this infrastructure and advancement of ideas and compartmentalizing people and placing things. And then it's just like, wow, you see how I don't know, just how magical this world is when you can bring something into existence simply by writing and putting together chemical reactions, or creating or converting energy into chemical reactions into a specific object. This object has a purpose, and maybe it has consciousness, and maybe it has, who knows, intelligence and all that. And then now you're like, whoa, what is this world that we live in? It's a constant simulation, and they rise and they fall. You said the rise of civilization, simulation, civilization, simulation, civilization, they almost sound the same. Civilization is simulation. Western simulation, Western civilization. Eastern simulation, Eastern civilization. Oh, now you get it. And now you have the power to write in your present, to write in your future, and not adopt somebody else's words, somebody else's construct, someone else's storyline, which is why I challenge those that are heavily into the religious world, into the Bible, into all their different gods. Can you release that identity and start writing in your own purpose? Nope. That would be so difficult for a person to release the scripture, to release the words from their gurus, to release the words from their celebrity icons, to release even the persona of their celebrity icons. Whether it's doing the Botox or wearing the cute little clothing or getting all the plastic surgery, these are people's identities. And they are, clones. And you can get even more pejorative and call it sheeple, but we don't want to get too mean out there. But that's the thing. You have to realize what it is that you're doing. But some people are just like, they don't care, and that's fine. You don't have to care. But you deserve another way of looking at the world. You deserve another choice. You deserve to know how this world has been constructed. This is the takeaway today. The rise and fall of civilization / simulation. And we're in the decline, the fall of one civilization. Now you have the ability to develop the new one. And that is going to take energy. It's going to take a person releasing the old world, developing the new world. And it hasn't been developed yet. You were in the process of it. If you're not going to write it, somebody else will write it for you. and determine the path for your children, the path for you, and the path for your grandkids. And you will have no control over your present and your future, which is the present. And so that must be understood. But again, you have to clear the pipes. You have to stay on your own for a bit. You have to stop being so freaking busy and not be so money hungry, social capital hungry, and sit and think about who the fuck you are and what you're bringing to humanity. Or are you contributing to the demise of humanity? You only have two choices out there. All right, bye.